I am Ben Hess. I am a comic. Before I was a comic, I was a United States Marine, if you would believe it. And you are right not to apply, like people do, and I'll tell you why. It's because it's probably the easiest thing I've ever done in my life. Being a Marine was the easiest thing I've ever done in my life. I felt like I have to repeat that because it sounds like something a crazy person would say. Let me explain what being a Marine is like. See, it turns out that if you want to be a good Marine, all you have to do is what they tell you to do. That's it. Let me give you an example. If they tell you to run, you just run. You just run. That's it. If they tell you to do a pull-up, you jump up, you grab onto a bar, and you pull which direction do you think? Oh my God, you can all be Marines! It's amazing. Each and every single one of you could be a United States Marine. It's hardcore. If they tell you to go to Iraq and fight in an illegal war for bullshit reasons, you do it. So I did that. Don't worry, it's not going to get too serious. You can listen up. So I did that. I went to Iraq in 2004. I had a great time. I'm not going to talk a lot about it because I know that we are at a comedy club and it turns out war's kind of serious. But I will say this. I will say that my entire time over there, all I wanted to do, the thing I wanted to do more than anything else in the world, was find a fly. Genetically engineer that fly to be about 40,000 times its own size. And then I crawl all over its face when it's trying to sleep. That's all I ever wanted, man. I don't ask for much. I don't know. I'm a combat veteran. And what that means is my day-to-day life has a number of speed bumps that I have to deal with, and I've dealt with it, what I call pretty okay-ish. But I don't have some of that heavier shit. I don't get flashbacks, for example. I don't. But if I did get flashbacks, they would have a really shitty soundtrack. That's what I'm saying. I'm jealous. I'm jealous of the Vietnam veterans because their flashbacks have amazing soundtracks. If you have seen any sort of reference to any sort of Vietnam flashback in any sort of popular media, it usually goes something like this. First, you hear the helicopters, and this is going to be my helicopter impression, so bear with me. That sounds like a helicopter, right? Yeah, we're on the same page. So they'll hear the helicopter, right? And then all of a sudden, and then they freak out. And then it fades in. Some folks are born, made to wave the flag. Ooh, the red, white, and blue. Okay, that's awesome. I mean, I'm sure it's terrifying for the guy experiencing it, but the music is great. That's what okay. If I had a flashback, it would go like this. He was a skater boy. She said, "See you later, boy." He wasn't good enough. That's shit. Oh my God, this terrifying flashback sucks. Saying there was no good tunes to cure my spirit over there. Nobody was making protest music. Nobody was making nobody. That's the music industry was bought and sold a long time ago. So let's all be sad about that together for a second. I do, like I said, I do consider myself a little lucky in terms of my way to deal with it. You know, it's just kind of, it's like dealing with asthma, I guess. But it is. It's just like, well, I have asthma. I have PTSD now. I guess let's just go. You know, like, let's just live with PTSD. Fuck it. You know, so it is. You know, for the most part, things were normal. 4th of July is weird, I guess. My dog and I take turns hiding behind the couch. You know, it's one of those. I understand him. He's got deep eyes. We get it. We get each other. Good time. The thing I don't understand is when I talk about this shit and audiences get uncomfortable, like I'm not the one that deals with it. Like, why? You don't have a right to be uncomfortable. Like, it's my life. It's my. You can walk out after the show and go back to normal stuff. And I just made you uncomfortable again. See how that works? Again, you're not allowed to be uncomfortable. Yeah. Every cloud though, I'll give you this, every cloud does have a silver lining. Once a year, one single day a year, Applebee's gives me a free, obviously microwave hamburger. So, give it up for Applebee's, y'all. Yeah, woo! Yeah, totally worth the night sweats, night terrors, and panic attacks. You got quit being uncomfortable, Jesus. Like, I'm the one that's cool with it. God, I don't get it. I don't understand people.
I'm sorry, I'll leave.
Nah, you do you. That's cool. Whatever. Yeah, panic attacks. Anybody familiar with those little fellas? Those little buddies? Those good little friends? Panic, you guys know? Nobody? All right. Well, I guess I'm about to have a panic attack. Here's the thing. If you don't know what a panic attack is, the best way I can describe it is that my heart is convinced it belongs inside of a hummingbird, and that hummingbird is on fire. Okay? And my mind becomes an episode of The View with just 4 voices yelling at each other over and over, and it coming from nowhere that's sensible or a matter of reason or communication. That's nothing about The View. I just think it's a really bad format for television. That's all. It's just widely, I would say ESPN, but I have a feeling that nobody here is really a sports fan. Either way, it's shit TV, is the point. Okay, it makes brain melt out of your face. Kind of television, it's frustrating, and that's what my brain becomes during a panic attack. Do you guys get it now? Tight. Okay, well I have a thing called a panic disorder, where a panic attack is so bad that you live in constant fear that you're going to have another panic attack, which leads to a panic attack. It's crazy. It's amazing. It's amazing that my own brain would do that to me, the guy that feeds it and breathes it. Luckily, here's the thing though, I found a cure. I did. I found a cure to my panic attacks and my anxiety and all the other shit. Yeah. I did. And I found it in an issue of Cosmopolitan magazine. You would believe it. Yeah, it's amazing. You know, Cosmo. Sure, I like lists. 14 reasons your boyfriend may actually be a haunted armoire. It's fucking Cosmo. I read an article in Cosmo. This really happened. It was like, here, the article told me if you have issues with panic and anxiety, the best way to deal with that is to go ahead and schedule that panic or the anxiety for a later time. Schedule it. And I always, you know, I had 2 thoughts. One, I do a lot of comedy, and I know that person paid their rent with that article. I know they paid their rent by pulling that bullshit out of their ass. And the second thought is, I need to go write for Cosmo. Because I can pull shit like that out of my ass all fucking day. I'm trying to figure out, if I were scheduling my panic attacks, I'm trying to figure out how that would work in a professional setting. Let's say I didn't do this. Let's say I had a big boy job, and I put product in my hair, and I wore Dockers. My version of what work is like is still from the 90s. And I sat behind the desk and I called my secretary and I'd say something like, "Oh, hey Sherry, can you move my panic attack up to 4 o'clock? The Johnsons are running late." "Oh shit, it's 4 right now. Whew, let's do it." Oh wait, I'm getting a notification on my phone. Oh fuck, I double booked 2 panic attacks. Oh, that's gonna give me a panic attack. I need you to schedule a panic attack for after all the panic attacks are done. It's ridiculous being me, it's hard. It's hard being everybody. I'm not, being a human being is the stupidest thing ever. It really is. You guys ever seen seafood commercials? If you don't know what these are, they are commercials that primarily feature seafood. You know what I'm talking about? Nobody's seen a seafood commercial? All right, let me explain how a seafood commercial generally functions. There's always a fork in a seafood commercial, always a fork upon which rests a bite of lobster. And that bite of lobster plunges gracefully into a cup of butter. Out of said cup raises this golden, buttery, delicious geyser high into the air. It reflects the lighting, it's beautiful, it's amazing, it entrances you because you don't understand that they're filming it with a high-speed camera. If a guy did that in real time in front of me at my table, I'd be like, "Why are you slamming the shit out of your butter that hard, guy?" What that butter did to you? Did your parents drown in a vat of butter? And it's just like, I hate it. It's one entire cup of butter ejected for one bite of lobster. There's nothing more wasteful or American than that. If you go to lunch with this guy, are you going to sit there and watch this guy calculate how many bites of lobster this lobster may or may not contain so he can order that many cups of butter? If you go to lunch with this guy, do you have to dress like you're going to sit in the front row of a Gallagher show? For those that don't know who Gallagher was, he was a guy that smashed fruit with a giant hammer and made $1 million doing it. I'm doing this wrong. It's occurring to me just now. So it's way easier to smash fruit with a hammer than it is to write jokes. I'm an idiot. So this guy is wasteful. He's a drag on the economy. And with as much butter as this guy wastes, I'm sure he's inflated the butter market artificially. Like, butter market stocks are crashing and rising and it's insane. I'm sure that's how it's going. So what I would like to do is ostracize him. Get him out of our society. We don't need ostracize means to kick out of town. The Greeks did it to, they were going to do it to Socrates, but he was prideful and he poisoned himself instead like a moron. He could have come back in like a year. Anyway, the point point is, I would like to ostracize this waster of butter to the outskirts. Forget about it. But the thing is I know how my life works. I know everything in my life works, and I guarantee you, a couple years after we ostracize him, our planet will be invaded by an evil and sentient race of butter people. And we will have ostracized the only man who really knows how to destroy butter. And that's the problem. And after all of the world's generals, after having failed at fighting the butter people, they'll drive up a little cabin road, and they'll find him outside his cabin, out in the middle of nowhere, like chopping wood or whatever. I don't know. I've never lived in a cabin. I assume there's a lot of wood chopping. And they'll come up to him and they'll be like, "We need your help." And he'd be like, "I don't do that anymore. I grow fresh basil now." And they'd be like, "Look, Jordan, we've named him now." Which unfortunately means we can't eat him. You can't eat something after you named it. You're like, "Look, Jordan, the butter people hit us with everything they got. We got creamed out there. We were spread too thin. If you don't help us, we're toast." And he'll take his axe that he was just chopping wood with, because he reluctantly understands the responsibility the entire planet is placing on his axe swinging shoulders, and he'll walk inside and he'll break open the floorboards or the cabin and pull out this ornate box, blow the dust off of it, open the lid, and therein lay a fork, a bib, and this like flaccid lobster. And we'll pick them up in a helicopter and drop them off in front of the mother saucer. That one's not on purpose, actually. It's really not. It's just that it's always a flying saucer. That one just happens to sound like butter. I didn't do that. English did that for me. And we'll drop him off with his fork and his lobster and his bib, and he'll say, "Now it's my turn." And that's the bit. I like that bit. There's a reason I like that bit. I like that bit because it's like a calm Sunday drive. That bit. It's like, "Oh look, oh joke. Oh, there's a joke. There's another joke. Oh honey, look, puns." I'm gonna get a picture of that pun. Post it on Facebook. You don't see puns anymore. Beautiful. I used to long time ago, not that long ago. I don't know how to. I can't even measure feet, let alone time. But at some point in my life, I was a huge conspiracy guy. Anybody conspiracy people? Into conspiracies? I used to believe in all sorts of conspiracies. I really did. And then until I grew up and I realized hubris and nobody knows what the fuck they're doing, and I know people that are in charge of stuff that are on their phone while looking for their phone. People are stupid. You can't grant. Let me give you an example. I know that there is no deep state because our government is blatantly corrupt, confidently, right in front of our faces all the time. If you wondering if there's a deep state is like wondering if the mafia is just a front for the mafia. It just is, dude. There's nothing deeper. They're just shitty people. It's the same thing. So the conspiracies that I was into were specifically alien conspiracies. Anybody know anything about all that shit? You? Okay, cool. All right. Well, yeah, tight. No, there's always like, oh, we after the show we can have a beer, just go off. It's true because it's ridiculous. The thing about alien conspiracies that I love is my good friend Casey Hunt, who opened the show. He has this phrase he uses where he goes, "It makes sense until you think about it." It is one of those things. I call it a mythology. Alien mythology and abductee mythology started in the late 50s, early 60s. It was a case called the Barney Hill case that happened in the late 50s and early 60s. And they claimed that they were abducted by aliens and they looked like this. And that's where grays came from. If you know about the gray dudes, big heads, almond-shaped eyes, the alien that you see when you see any movie anymore, they're like this. You know, they're really, that's, in the 50s, science fiction had every alien with big heads. Like, so it's kind of obvious to me, and if you follow it, let me give you an example. All right, in the 1970s, anybody ever seen the movie Fire in the Sky, first off? Anybody remember that movie? About Travis Walton getting abducted from an Arizona wildfire by a mother saucer? Okay. He was abducted, and he found a way to escape in a spaceship because apparently aliens have the technology to fly millions of light years, but they don't know anything about internal security. You know? And he ended up in the navigation room of the spaceship and started flying it on accident, like, whoa, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, but it was flown by a joystick. He used a joystick to fly an alien spaceship. It's now 2016, and we don't use joysticks to fly anything, but in the 70s that sounded really future. So if I'm going to make up a lie about how aliens fly their spaceships, of course they use joysticks, because Atari just came out. It doesn't make any fucking sense. What I'm saying is, if you read an abductee experience right now, and those of you who are following me are probably offended because you believe in aliens, and that's not my fault. They believe in something dumb. But now all of a sudden when you read abductee experiences, all the alien spaceships are controlled via touch screen. They touch screens now, right? Which tells me one thing, that aliens have traveled millions of light years to our planet to land a giant contract with Samsung. Yeah. And I don't know if you guys know anything about why they're abducting us in the mythology, in the reasoning. Okay? Nobody? Really? Not at all? Okay, I'm going to blow your minds. This is what people think. They're abducting us. They're abducting women and like stealing their fetuses, and they're abducting men and stealing their sperm. And the reason they're doing it is because like their race is dying out, and they don't have a way to produce, so they're splicing their DNA with our DNA, and they're getting hybrids. You know what I'm saying? Okay, that's what they're doing. And the thing I don't understand is we as human beings, we already like mapped like 13 million parts of our own genome and learned how to clone a sheep, all before Seinfeld went off the air. Like we already have it, we already know our own genetics. These guys have interstellar travel down, but they haven't put a microscope on a cell. Like, and then you have, you know, these different, I'll just do one and then I'll move on, but my favorite is, I'm sure you guys have heard of reptilians. Everybody, sorry, I mean the Clintons. I mean the reptilians. They're equally bad. So, here's the thing about reptilians. They are from a planet that, from our perspective, resides in the constellation Draco. Okay, so what you're telling me is the people that look like dragons come from a constellation that looks like a dragon. You see how convenient that is for shitty story writing? You understand how nonsensical that is? And if there's an alien looking at me right now at this moment, am I on a planet that resides in a constellation from their point of view that looks like a tall, skinny guy who's really self-conscious about the size of his knuckles? Is that what that looks like? So it doesn't make any sense. The aliens or the knuckles. It's both. This ring's never coming off. I can't. My grandma died with all her rings on. She couldn't get them off. All right. Any of you guys know what role playing is? I don't mean like I cast fireball. Did I get you? Fuck. Ooh. Thank God you did, man. You liability, you know what I'm saying? I don't want to set someone on fire during my show. Rolled an evade on that 20, you know. I mean role playing like you know, in the bedroom with your significant other, right? You're role playing. I didn't know what role playing is. My girlfriend said she wanted to role play. I said, describe to me this thing you are calling role playing. She said, within the confines of this room, within these walls, we can pretend to be whoever we want. We can pretend to be whoever we want. And I said, give me an example. And she said, okay, for example, in this role-playing scenario, I would like to be a stripper called Sapphire. And I said, hey, totally uncreative. But I like where you're going with this. Let me give it a shot. So I said, I would like to be the corpse of long-deceased Supreme Court Justice Roger B. Hagee. Which is, you know, it's pretty obvious if you think about it, you know. And she said, that's disgusting. I said, hey, you said I could be whoever I want, whatever I want in this scenario. And in this scenario, I want to be the corpse of long-deceased Supreme Court Justice Roger B. Hagee. That's who I want to be. And she said, no, what I mean is, it's disgusting that you would decide specifically to be the corpse of long-deceased Supreme Court Justice Roger B. Hagee, the same corpse of long-deceased Supreme Court Justice Roger B. Hagee, who in 1859 spearheaded the Supreme Court's decision to overturn the Missouri Compromise, leaving the slave plants fly north as Washington, D.C., our very nation's capital. That's disgusting. I said, how the fuck do you know that? She said, Sapphire's dancing her way through law school, baby. That's one of those jokes that I can't believe I wrote. Like, while I'm telling it, I'm like, I can't believe I fucking wrote it. Alright, I'll do one more and then I got out of here. This is a small one. This is actually really, really, really difficult to do, so if I fuck it up, too bad. That's what, you know, whatever, that's life. The other night, I had to take out the garbage. And when I came back in, I had to replace the garbage bag, and I went in, and there was only one garbage bag left in the garbage box. So I took the last garbage bag out of the garbage box, and I put it in the garbage can, and I put the now empty garbage bag box into the new garbage bag, and I said, hey, looks like the tables have turned. That's it, it's about perspective. It's deeper than that. It's not about garbage bags, it's about knowing where you are in the universe. Deep-ass joke, you bunch of jerks. Alright. Alright, I'm going to do one even shorter and then I'm out. Okay, you guys ready? This is way short. Alright. I ran into a guy coming out of the bathroom, and he had a cool shirt. And he had pictures of birds all over his shirt. And I said, hey, I really like your shirt. And he said, really? And I said, yeah, they look like they're frantically searching for a cooler shirt to be on. All right, I'm done asking my time. Are you guys ready for your next comment? This guy's going to close out the show. You can actually see him here on this stage in about 2 seconds. Put your hands together for Montana Burke, everybody. Good
how comics you saw tonight, everybody. Casey Collins, whoever goes with that Hess. It's a good show. I'm excited to be with that.
Oh, really?